I'm telling y'all, if you are still 300 pounds, if you have regained 20 pounds, if you are snacking, if you are not happy, if you are stressed out, if you have anxiety, your map in your head is wrong. If you don't have your book, Too Soon Old, Too Late Smart, go ahead and grab it. There's a link. We're going to read a chapter a day. And I think you're going to really enjoy this book. So I'm going to skip the forward, and I'm going to read the first chapter, and then we can discuss. If the map doesn't agree with the ground, the map is wrong. Once, a long time ago, I was a young lieutenant in the 82nd Airborne Division. So he's a military veteran, and he's also a psychiatrist, Dr. Gordon. I was a young lieutenant in the 82nd Airborne Division, trying to orient myself on a field problem at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. As I stood studying a map, my platoon sergeant, a veteran of many junior officers, approached. "You figure out where you are, Lieutenant?" he asked. "Well, the map says there should be a hill over there, but I don't see it," I replied. "Sir," he said, "if the map don't agree with the ground, then the map is wrong." Even at that time, I knew I had just heard a profound truth. Over the many years I have spent listening to people's stories, especially all the ways in which things can go awry, I have learned that our passage through life consists of an effort to get the maps in our heads to conform to the ground on which we walk. Ideally, this process takes place as we grow. Our parents teach us, primarily by example, what they have learned. Unfortunately, we are seldom wholly receptive to these lessons. And often our parents' lives suggest to us that they have little useful to convey, so that much of what we know comes to us through the frequently painful process of trial and error. In other words, we don't listen to our elders. To single out an important life task about which most of us could use some instruction, we might look at choosing and keeping a mate. The fact that upward of half of all marriages end in divorce indicates that collectively we are not very good at this task. When we look at our parents' relationships, we are usually not reassured. I find few people who would be satisfied with what they have seen in their families of origin, even when their parents' marriages have endured for decades. More often, those whose parents are still together describe them as living a boring or conflicted coexistence that makes economic sense but lacks anything one could describe as excitement or emotional satisfaction. That is very true. Perhaps, positive visualization, man. Thinking about my birthday, my day. I want some of that passion and energy in my relationship with Eric. Perhaps predicting what someone will be like and how much we will like them in 5 years, much less 50, is impossible. And we must accept that society is moving toward a kind of serial monogamy, an acknowledgement that people change over time and that it is naive to expect the love of our youth to endure. The problem is that serial monogamy is not a very good model for child rearing, since it does not provide the stability and security that children need in order to begin to construct the maps of how the world works. So what is it exactly that we need to know to decide if someone is a suitable candidate for a lifetime commitment? Perhaps one way to approach this screening process is to learn more about who is evidently not suitable. To make this judgment, one needs to know something about personality. We are accustomed to thinking about character in the most superficial ways. Quote, "He has a lot of personality," unquote, is usually a statement about how engaging or entertaining someone is. In fact, the formal definition of personality includes our habitual ways of thinking, feeling, and relating to others. Most of us understand that people differ in certain characteristics, such as introversion, fondness for detail, tolerance for boredom, willingness to be helpful, determination, and a host of other personal qualities. What most people fail to realize, however, is that the qualities we value, kindness, tolerance, capacity for commitment, are not randomly distributed. They tend to exist as constellations of traits that are recognizable and reasonably stable over time. Likewise, those attributes of character that are less desirable, impulsivity, self-centeredness, quickness to anger, often cluster in discernible ways. Much of our difficulty in developing and sustaining personal relationships resides in our failure to recognize, in ourselves as well as in others, those personality characteristics that make someone a poor candidate for a committed relationship. Like, we fail to recognize these people's bad traits. The psychiatric profession has taken the trouble to categorize personality disorders. I often think that this section of the diagnostic manual ought to be titled, People to Avoid. The many labels contained herein, histrionic, narcissistic, dependent, borderline, and so on, form a catalog of unpleasant persons, suspicious, selfish, unpredictable, exploitative. These are the people your mother warns you about. Unfortunately, sometimes they are your mother. Unfortunately, sometimes they are your mother. They seldom exist in the unalloyed form suggested by the statistical manual. But knowing something about how to recognize them would save a lot of heartbreak. What would be equally useful, I think, would be a manual of virtuous character traits that describes qualities to nurture in ourselves and to seek in our friends and lovers. Remember, these qualities, these personality traits, are the maps inside our heads. And our actions and activities and how we lead our lives is the ground. And if the world is not the way you want it, then the map is wrong. The thinking is wrong. I think it would be a manual of virtuous character traits that describes qualities to nurture in ourselves and to seek in our friends and lovers. At the top of the list would be kindness. This is what, Mason and I talk about, right? Which one's most important? Kindness. A willingness to give of oneself to another. The most desirable of virtues governs all the others, including a capacity for empathy and love. Like other forms of art, we may find it hard to define, but when we are in the presence, we feel it. This is the map we wish to construct in our heads, a reliable guide that allows us to avoid those who are not worthy of our time and trust, and to embrace those who are. I mean, this is big league stuff here. Like, the map we want in our heads should be a reliable guide. What we want is a reliable guide that allows us to avoid those who are not worthy of our time and trust, and to embrace those who are. Dealing with thousands of bariatric patients, I hear this so much. They're in bad relationships, abusive relationships. They get out of one bad relationship as they're losing weight, and they get back into the same relationship, just a different body. It's the same guy or gal, but just a different body, right? You have to accept this. These people, these narcissists, these selfish people, these borderline personalities, these histrionic personalities, these dependent personalities are not worthy of your time and trust. And you need to start embracing people who are. So we got these families together. And most of them I didn't know well. Denny popped in for the first hour, then he had to leave. Samir, the neighbor down the road, he builds houses, former engineer. I knew him the best. And honestly, after that, it was like 3 or 4 other families I barely knew. But I gotta surround myself. I gotta find, I gotta figure out, you know, these are good families, live in nice neighborhood, they have good careers. I mean, Erica came home and she's like, oh my God, I feel inadequate. And she started to cry. And she's like, I feel like I'm behind. I'm like, why? She said, these women, you know, one was a professor of finance and economics at St. Thomas University, a woman. These are all mothers. One mother was a pharmacist PhD at Memorial Hermann. One mother was director of marketing, or no, she was a director of global division of something. I was like, what? From New York, moved here from New York. So you gotta find these people and you gotta embrace those who are worthy of your time, your trust. The best indications that our always tentative maps are faulty include feelings of sadness, anger, betrayal, surprise, and disorientation. Like, what just happened? The best indications that we are wrong, our maps are faulty, include feelings of sadness. You're sad because your life is not what you thought it would be. You're sad because you've been let down by your best friend, so-called best friend, that you've been betrayed. You know, anger. Why do these people keep acting this way? Why do they keep making the same mistakes? Betrayal. You know, he accidentally slipped into the wrong vagina again. Surprise! This happened. Disorientation. What's going on here? It is when these feelings surface that we need to think about our mental instrument of navigation. My map is wrong, and how to correct it, so that we do not fall into the repetitive patterns of those who waste the learning that is the only consolation for our painful experience. The only consolation for your painful experience is that you learn the lesson. Isn't that crazy? It is so good. His writing is so immaculate. The only consolation for our painful experience is the learning. And that's chapter 1. Amazing. The maps of our mind. If our lives are not what we want, I'm telling y'all, if you are still 300 pounds, if you have regained 20 pounds, if you are snacking, if you are not happy, if you are stressed out, if you have anxiety, your map in your head is wrong. What you're doing is wrong. What you believe is wrong. What you know is wrong. And that's, unknowingly, that's what I had to realize when I was going through my problems. That I believed so strongly that I knew the right things, that I was doing the right things, and I wasn't. I was a good person, y'all. I was a good person. My map was wrong. My map was wrong. And I actually had pretty decent people around me. I just didn't have any mentors. I made the wrong decision on the job. I was just frustrated. My life was not going the way I wanted it to go. I was broke. I never had a paycheck. I never paid myself. My rentals were hardly making any money. It's kind of like this camping. Like my head was wrong. My map was wrong. Thank you for all the birthday wishes. I'm going to challenge you today, day 1. Look at your day and decide, like, is my life really how I want it? I know you have a good life. I have a very good life, but what areas of my life? You know, my thighs are too stinking weak. My endurance is not good. You know, like I need to work on that. You know, this belief that, maybe this whole skinny Asian thing is not serving me any longer. Maybe I should be the thin, muscular Asian, the strong Asian. Maybe I should be the strong Asian. Instead of skinny Asian, maybe I should be strong Asian. Let me see if strongasian.com is available. I know I have skinnyasian.com. Don't Google that. Bad things pop up if you Google skinny Asian.